How did it go from this?
And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot.
To this.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
I think that if he and the president are in some blood feud, most importantly, it's going to be bad for the country.
Well, if that falsehood last week is representative of what they're finding and they're misleading the public about, then we need to be much more cautious about the assertions and the guarantees of transparency that on closer inspection may not actually bear out.
It's not like I agree with everything the administration does. So it's like I agree with much of what the administration does, but we have differences of opinion.
The clash between Elon Musk and Donald Trump has reached new levels, with both men taking their rivalry to a personal stage. From social media feuds to public attacks, this battle of billionaires and politicians is more than just a war of words. It's a fight for influence, power, and pride.
Essentially, Elon is upset with Trump because of the big, beautiful bill. He felt that that bill was lacking in codifying all the cuts or the proposed cuts that Doge had recommended. And because of this, he feels slighted. Elon has sacrificed his time, much of his reputation, his effort to help get Trump elected and to be part of Doge. Tesla dealerships are being attacked and all this craziness was happening. So I can understand to a degree why Elon would be upset. However, I do think that he's handling this much like a petulant child, because while Trump may allow him to run freely in the executive branch, when it comes to passing legislation, we have other branches of government that are involved. So it's not just Trump who can play king and decide that everything must come through that Elon wants. Once again, Elon is someone who is not part of the federal government, was not elected. He can make recommendations just like any other advisor, but he didn't buy his way into becoming, the ruler of America. Trump was elected as a president. We have other members of Congress and the Senate who are elected to pass bills. For Elon to act this particular way and not understand that politics is a long game and there's many hands in the pot when it comes to something like this, I think is very childish of him.
Dave, you sat down with Musk less than 24 hours before he announced he was leaving the Trump administration. Why do you believe he wanted to sit down with you and other journalists?
There's two ways to look at it. One is that he was trying to make clear to the public that he's out of Washington. He's still told us that he's working with Doge. In previous interviews, he said 1 or 2 days a week. So even as of Tuesday, he was not thinking that he's done with government. So one reason of thinking about it is that he was just trying to show the public that he's really back working with his companies. Another way to look at it is he was doing sort of a reputational repair tour of the media.
Elon seems to have a lot of different forces driving him, but certainly including what plays well on X. And he, I think, felt some obligation or sentiment that he had to stand up for himself on the internet. He had to post. He couldn't just be chill.
And yet, he's probably going to need to be chill and has already shown a little bit of backing away. I mean, is there an Elon Always Chickens Out app that's coming out?
Well, I think, you saw Trump really kind of humiliate him on the way out the door. I think this was a little underplayed because Trump cares a lot about images. And if you look at the image of when Elon, ends his sort of official term, Trump doesn't get up. There's a picture of Trump at the desk shaking his hand like the way, some annoying person is in your office and you're not going to bother getting up, shake his hand. And then he presented him, and he saw this with the key to the White House, which is like, if my kids went to the White House, Trump maybe would give them the key to the White House. If the mayor of some small town they'd get the key to the White House, it's sort of like the lowest level trinket that you give a visitor. And so it was I think it was a sort of deliberately humiliating departure. Musk was in there with a black eye, bouncing off the walls.
Right, so in other words, you're saying Trump was basically really asking for it, was really kind of showing that he was done with Elon. And Elon's reaction was essentially reflecting that reality.
Yeah, and I think Elon felt like, all right, I guess I don't have to lie about my views anymore. particularly about the Trump administration's single biggest priority, this huge tax cut and bill, and just immediately turned to Twitter to say, well, actually now I can speak freely. This bill is terrible, which is the single most annoying thing he could have done to the White House.
You think that's more annoying for Trump? You said the White House, but you think that's more annoying for Trump than, saying I'm going to start a third party? It's more annoying to Trump than saying you should be impeached? More annoying to Trump than saying, actually, you're all over the Epstein files?
That's also quite annoying.
Including it sometimes feels like the president and Elon Musk himself. We have certainly seen a bit of a de-escalation from yesterday, whereas you put it, Elon Musk was willing to sort of out crazy Trump. One of the things that's fascinating is when some of Trump's other political rivals, I'm thinking most notably of Marco Rubio in the 2016 campaign, but there have been a number. When they try to go tit for tat with Donald Trump, you can it doesn't feel authentic to them. Their heart isn't in it. It's not their natural state. But it's very clear that Elon Musk is very comfortable using his voice, using his platform, using his money to ratchet things up in a way that President Trump has not experienced from a rival, and not just a rival, but someone who is Tapi put it to me the other day, Trump began his term only, 5-6 months ago, overly enamored with Elon Musk. So this is a real evolution in that relationship. And I think there will be more twists and turns to come, potentially even before your 2 hours are over, Katie.
All of those are practical realities of immediately stopping federal payments to various agencies and federal workers, some in the United States, some recipients of research grants, some being cared for by those medical research grants, as you just indicated, and some Americans in very dangerous hotspots around the world working for USAID who don't know if they can even come back home, if they will have a job, health care, all these uncertainties. So, yes, the American people had a referendum on government reform. President Trump won that referendum. He is entitled to exercise some manner of control over the executive branch. There is nothing illegal about that, and there is something potentially politically valuable in doing that. And scrubbing the vast network of federal payments is probably long overdue. But when you get down to the specifics, like Elon Musk was just asked about something President Trump said repeatedly last week. First, it was $50 million in condoms to Hamas. Then it was $100 million.
Right.
That is completely false. 100% false. It was never true. And Elon Musk just said, oh, well, we'll sometimes make mistakes. Right. That wasn't a mistake. That was an intentional effort to say, look at all that we've found that is so horrifying. And when you dig down deeper, it's not nearly what was described. And if that's consistent with how these efforts are going to be described, President Trump said again, hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, if that falsehood last week is representative of what they're finding and they're misleading the public about, then we need to be much more cautious about the assertions and the guarantees of transparency that on closer inspection may not actually bear out.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people. That's the whole point of a democracy.
I think Elon Musk did a fabulous job with Doge. He exposed grotesque examples of waste, fraud, and abuse. I have nothing but praise for Elon Musk and appreciate his efforts.
Do you agree with his assessment that if it wasn't for him, that Republicans wouldn't have control of Congress right now and the election?
Elections have so many different factors, and he obviously played a positive role.
He's right about the big, beautiful bill. I mean, it's like adding a $2.5 trillion debt. I mean, it's astonishing. I can't imagine anyone genuinely think this is like a smart thing, and that's where we are. And now it's suddenly now Musk is right?
Well, the way that I've made sense of Donald Trump from day one, as I've said many times, is to treat the White House like the court of King Henry VIII or Louis XIV in Versailles, where you've basically got a Sun King surrounded by courtiers in different factions, and he's playing them off against each other. And you've really had three factions around Trump since the beginning of his tenure. On the one hand, you have the congressional Republicans, you've got the techno-libertarians, sort of epitomized by Elon Musk, and then you've got the populist nationalists, people like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. And that split matters for policy reasons for the rest of the world, because there's long been a bubbling split between the populist nationalists and the techno-libertarians like Elon Musk around issues like immigration, around the tariffs, around the direction of tax policy, really fundamental questions, and also around the question of China, which in some ways is even more important.